Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on looking at the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to have a look at the Chaos Land Raider. The Chaos Land Raider, the fearsome truck of doom with great firepower to punch a hole through the mightiest armour and transport capabilities to wipe out the rest. This used to be one of the most fearsome units in the game, and back in the day, and you'd best bet that you had to have a lot of Melta and quite a lot of last cannons to make sure that you could actually bring it down. Now it's slightly different when it's came to 8th with a few of the rule changes, but still a hard nut to crack open. So if you haven't seen this before, how it works is I'm going to have a look at the unit in the Codex, have a look at stats, some Wargear options and special abilities that can basically help it, and then have a look at loadout suggestions, Legion traits where applicable, psychic abilities and stratagems that may help as well. So with that, let's have a look at the Chaos Land Raider. So the Chaos Land Raider does have a few variable stats. The beginning one is movement. So at full efficiency it's 10, so it does move quite fast. When it does get injured too much, it becomes 5, and then when it gets injured far too much, it becomes 3. So you start out quite quick, at the end of the day you then get quite slow. Weapon skill 6+. This thing does not do combat well. You'd think a Land Raider at size and bulk, it might do a bit more in combat because it's large and it should be crushing. Even a 5 would have been nice, but this guy isn't really designed to sort of be in combat, but you'd think maybe a little bit more. Bliss skill does vary, so full efficiency 3, mid 4 and lowest 5, so certainly with its armaments it can be extremely deadly, hitting 2/3 of the time, and then its lowest only 1/3 of the time, but certainly its armaments really do favour being at peak efficiency. Strength and toughness 8, the strength isn't mattering because you're not going to be doing much in combat, but the toughness of 8 really does make it very difficult. Small arm fire is not going to touch it, and you're going to need some of the heaviest equipment to make sure you get through it. 16 wounds is a buckload of wounds, just means it's extremely durable. And then it does have variable attacks with peak efficiency being 6, mid efficiency D6 and lowest being 1. Again, not something you're going to worry about because you don't want to be in combat with this thing. Leadership 9, which unless there's psychic shenanigans it shouldn't really be a problem, and a mighty 2+ save. Certainly 2+ save and the toughness 8 makes it very difficult to bring down. So the Chaos Land Raider is armed with twin heavy bolters and 2 twin last cannons, so it does have a little bit of anti-infantry and quite a lot of anti-vehicle and big thing weaponry on there as well. The model may take a Habit Launcher or one of the items from the combi weapon list. Please note, do not take a combi plasma and supercharge it. I'm pretty sure it destroys the Land Raider in its entirety if you supercharge and roll a 1. Need to check on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Don't do it. Don't buy combi plasma. Don't be that wild. If you are that wild, cool for you, but I would advise against it. It does have smoke launchers once per game. Instead of shooting any of its weapons in the shooting phase, a Chaos Land Raider can use smoke launchers. Until the next shooting phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls for ranged weapons that target the vehicle. Tempting, there might be cases where you want to advance the Land Raider to get the cargo inside it up the field, so then you might be tempted to then activate smoke launchers, but you are giving up the heavy bolter shots and the last cannon shots, which is not it's going to be situational on that one when you need to play smoke launchers, how much you want your Land Raider to survive. It might be cases where you need to get to an objective and you want to make sure your Land Raider survives. Might be a case you use smoke launchers, but you are giving up a lot of dangerous firepower. Demonic Machine Spirit, ignore the -1 modifier for moving and shooting heavy weapons for this model. Great, because just about all its weapons, bar the ones that you attach to it, are heavy, so it just means you can be rolling about and still be firing last cannon shots and heavy bolter shots like there's no tomorrow. It explodes if this model is reduced to 0 wounds. Roll a d6 before removing the model from the battlefield and before any embarked models disembark. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 6 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds. So a big explosion on that one. Certainly it might not be a battlefield unit, so it may not affect your guys nearby, but certainly if it does explode, some things are going to hurt. So yeah, that can happen. This model can transport 10 Legion infantry models, so you have to make sure you shoot the same Legion trait. Each Terminator and Jump Pack model takes up 2 of the spaces, while Cult of Destruction models take up 3. So that, transport capabilities, depends what you want to put in it, I'll talk about later. It does mean that just about anything inside is going to be pretty safe. Toughness 8 and 2 up save. It's hard to open up, so those guys are going to be pretty safe for part of the game. So yeah, with that, that's everything in the Codex. Let's talk about the sort of loadout options for it. Really, there is only one. You have the option of adding on a Havoc launcher if you're so entitled to, if you're feeling it, or if you want to go for a combat weapon. Up to yourself. I'm not too strong on it. I think it is fine the way it is. So with that, we'll go with the loadout I suggest, which is the Party Bus Classic. Chaos Land Raider with twin heavy bolter and 2 twin lascans. So Land Raider's functions is twofold. One to give heavy firepower and the second is transport capabilities. Let's start off with talking about the firepower. The 4 lascan shots will focus on destroying any of your opponent's heavier forces, and the heavy bolter is to work away on some of the lighter troops. Overall, not bad. With plenty of wounds and toughness, which means that it will be as efficiency for quite a wee time. It's going to hard time actually deteriorating it. Overall, as a gun platform, not bad, being able to move and still fire at peak efficiency without suffering the effects of moving and firing heavy. It really helps considering its second role, which is transport capacity. The second function of a Land Raider is of course its ability to transport troops with the most protection, bar maybe deep striking. Who are likely targets of this bastion of protection while the truck is on the field? First, maybe Khorne Berserkers. We all know, given the chance of the destruction that they can cause, maybe with a character in tow, as they are basically just survival of marine, basically they're only got the survivability of marines. Having a transport is almost essential for Berserkers. Next I would feel would be Terminators. Hard choice between deep striking and transport. Depends really on their function. Filled with combat plasma, I would probably just go with deep strike. It does mean that you're going to be behind with a turn. If you've got loads of combat plasma, maybe bring a Terminator Lord or Jump Lord down with them. But if they're a bit cheaper and have combat roll, then yeah, maybe stick them in a Land Raider. Can help. A Land Raider moves 10, can advance, and it gives it all fearsome firepower. If advance gives up its fearsome firepower, but you can activate smoke launchers for -1 to hit, which makes it extremely survivable, and those units you struggle to crack it open to get the guys inside. So with that being said, let's talk about the disadvantages. It's kind of an expensive jack of all trades, masters of none. In its firepower capabilities, it's similar to a Predator with lascans. Difference is that a Predator with lascans is almost, well, a few more, about half the points, give or take, tens if some of that. You can almost get 2 lascan Predators and you'll get double the amount of firepower to cause a fair bit of damage, doing a lot more than the Land Raider. If for instance the Land Raider was going to stay in the backfield, you might just take 2 Predators instead. Secondly, the transport capabilities may be great, but it is very, very expensive. A Rhino is a fraction of the points, and deep strike in some cases is free. It's still viable, albeit we're giving up a turn, for deep striking to work. The other problem is once the Land Raider does move up the field, all it takes is a cheap unit to really charge in and shut it down to stop its shooting capabilities utterly for the next turn, which can be a true pain. It's not very good in combat, so it can't really defend itself so much. I once had a Land Raider charged over and over and over again by cultists who just ensured it could not fire, and very, very frustrating. That's why I find its 2 roles almost counterproductive to each other. Transport forward and you may lose your shooting capabilities. Stay back and you may as well have 2 Predators instead, or possibly Havocs, which are also awesome. So yeah, let's speak about Legion traits. Marine armies, including Custodes, their vehicles don't get Legion traits. Many other armies do, almost all of them. but Marines and that do not, which is frustrating, but I do like to speculate on the sort of advantages of them because, well, hopefully things might change in that one, but at the moment they are not. So I'll just speak about them quickly. Alpha Legion, hidden in plain sight. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target units for this trait if they're more than 12 inches away. So what does a Land Raider need? More survivability, I guess. It does have the capabilities to have plenty of minuses to hit, depending on various buffs you go for. So having a further -1 to hit and having, you know, that might be a little bit too much. I'll talk about the other ones you can get in a moment, but obviously one of them is smoke launchers. Still, we know we love this trait. If it was a Land Raider, it would be stupidly survivable, especially at a range. Iron Warrior Siege Lords. Enemy units attacked by this unit with this trait do not gain any bonus to their saving throw and cover. In addition, you can reroll failed win rolls for units with this trait when they target a building. Would be awesome for last cannons. Say any sort of, you've got your opponent activates a stratagem or anything where they gain cover, or their vehicles or heavy hitters are hiding away in cover. Ha! No! You ignore it because you're Iron Warriors, though if your opponent does activate that stratagem and you're Iron Warriors, that's a mistake. Still, you don't get that benefit with the Land Raider because unfortunately we do not benefit from Legion traits. Darn it. Psychic abilities. So there are a few psychic abilities Chaos Land Raider does benefit from. Psychic abilities from the Dark Hereticus. So let's speak about Prescience. Warp Charge 7. If manifested, select a Heretic Sash unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. You can add hit roll 1 to hit rolls made for this unit until the start of the next psychic phase. Good in shooting. This thing doesn't want to do combat. Nice to have +2+ to hit, even when you are rolling about in full speed. Nothing worse than last cannons missing. So yeah, 2+ to hit with them. Really, really handy to have. Miasma of Pestilence, Warp Charge 6. If manifested, select a visible Nurgle Heretic Sash unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target the unit. -1 to hit keeps the Land Raider by far more survivable. You could imagine if you put Alpha Legion on it, we wish, it would be -2, which is terrifying. You can activate smoke launchers as well to sacrifice the shooting, but you really do want to cause, with the last cannons to cause damage as well. Either way, -1 to hit is still something to keep in mind because this thing is a tank, and certainly making it more survivable is great. Speaking of more survivability, Delightful Agonies, Warp Charge 6. Marks Slaanesh only. If manifested, select a visible Slaanesh Heretic Sash unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, roll a d6 each time a model in that unit loses a wound. On a 5+, it does not. A Land Raider ignoring 1/3 of successful wounds is just going to be fearsome. It's just going to make your opponent have to pummel a huge amount of shots. I mean, it's got toughness 8, 16 wounds, 2 up save. If it's also got ignoring 1/3 of the wounds coming in as well, it's just going to be such a tough nut to crack. Really, 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 really difficult. So yeah, I can see Delightful Agonies being a really good option for the Land Raider to make sure it does not get killed. Stratagem recommendations. I'm going to be real here. I couldn't find any. Blasphemous Machines don't benefit because you obviously already ignore the effects of heavy, and there's none that really sort of target the Land Raider specifically. It's not a demon engine, so it can't get Demon Forge, and there was none that I really saw that really benefited the Land Raider specifically. Let me know if I am wrong on that one, but really I just don't see it on that one as well. So yeah, that is my tactical talk on the Chaos Land Raider. It's sort of a unit that, you get, exactly what you get in the Codex. There's not very much upgrades on it. It does feel 2 sort of rolls, but again, I do feel it's a bit of mixed rolls, whether if you move forward quite a lot with transport capacity and eventually get charged, then you're going to give up the sort of, the shooting capabilities, and if you keep in the backfield, it is a huge point cost to keep that in the back. Just really, really, really expensive. Yeah, it can be fearsome and it's extremely tough to bring down, but really it is also a very, very expensive option which makes it a little bit more difficult. If it could retreat and still fire, it would be much more terrifying. But I don't, you know, if it fall back and still fire, but I just think that might be a little bit much. So yeah, that's my tactical talk for Land Raiders, well, Chaos Land Raiders. I'm very intrigued to hear what people think of this one. Is it overpriced for what it can really do? Does it still, you know, incite fear in the opponent like it used to? Let me know. I'm so intrigued to hear. Thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media and Patreon, where obviously you can see the projects that we are working on and our day-to-day when we sometimes film. And you can also support us on Patreon, and that helps us bring more content, because we absolutely love doing this and we love hearing from you guys and bringing more content. So supporting us to do so is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so thanks again, I guess, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.